Welcome to Buckets, All-Star, Post-All-Star edition, brought to you by the Action Network. This is your daily NBA betting episode. Not daily this week because it's All-Star break, and, well, there's no games for Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're going to be back on Wednesday night after this episode with best bets for the Thursday slate and going forward. Awesome slate of games this week, by the way. Knicks Pistons leads us off on Thursday night. I'm jacked for that game. Lakers Clippers with Kawhi's run that he's on versus the Lake Show, who need to get their asses in gear. It's going to be great. Everything we talk about can be found in the award-winning Action Network app. It's the best way for you to track your picks. You get up to the second information where the bets and money are coming in. So make sure to download it right now and sign up for Action Pro. If you use the code POD20, you can get $20 off as well at actionnetwork.com/pro. You get instant alerts for Sean Kerner and Brandon Anderson and Nick Giffen and all of our well-to-do folks on the Action Network app. On tonight's show, we're going to talk about the All-Star weekend, our wins, our losses, the good, the bad, the ugly. Pretty successful All-Star weekend. And to do that, I'm joined by Joe Dellera at Joe Dellera from the Cash That podcast. No Jim Turby this week. Jim is actually on assignment in Los Angeles. He is in LA where he got to cover the All-Star game. So he has been seeing the sights and sounds of all the stuff that I refuse to do because all of it's a waste of time. It's a really bad weekend if you're media. You're just like standing with a bunch of people waiting and then having ridiculous, especially now with the content creator TikTok mogging is a thing. I've been told maxing. Joe, you were telling me the story before the game, before we came on. So I do enjoy a good victory lap. I want you to victory lap the live play that you put in on the All-Star game that came through.
Yeah, so we were already riding pretty high because we had Ant MVP. So we were like, we're in a good spot. And the last game was like a blowout. So I was saying to the guys in the huddle, I sent out in our Discord and I was like, this game's kind of like out of reach. Maybe we'll have some of like the scrubby all-stars get some run at the end of the game. So I said, if you want to do a little bit of live betting on Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram for last basket scorer. They were both 15-1. And then we had Scotty Barnes get the rebound with 5 seconds left and go coast to coast to get the cash at the end there. So just electric factory for the All-Star weekend. So it's always nice to cap it off with a win, but it's even more fun when it's one that's as random as that almost.
That's a crazy 15-1 hit, but it's a really good read by you to be like, wow, this is like so much of a blowout. The bad all-stars are going to play the scrub all-stars.
Yeah. And I was like, it's got to be somebody who wants to score because they might just like not be an all-star all the time. So I was like, Scotty Barnes, Brandon Ingram, not a bad combination there.
Let's go backwards. So let's start with the games first at the end. The format works.
Yeah.
There was real tension with the USA versus World. The first game between Stars and Stripes, I thought was also obviously really close. Ant makes the 3, and then Fox comes down and hits the buzzer beater for the win, and I was very concerned. Gave out Stars plus 200. That cashes. That was my best bet. That was my 3-star on our plays on the Action Network app. Did not get home on Tyrese Maxey. That was my MVP bet. He honestly had a really great run in that second game.
Close.
Which was like a real push, but Ant was too good in the first game, in the first 2 games, honestly. So he doesn't get home. And if you'd been like, Ant's going to try, I would have been slamming him.
Yeah.
Slamming him. Obviously this is the game made for Ant. It was great to see that happen. Did not get home on my underplay. We were so close. The underplay in Stripes versus World was good until the final 2 minutes. And then they were like, oh shit, we're going to lose. So they started going back and forth and trading buckets. And I was like, no, I was so excited to finally get home on an all-star under because it's such a stupid bet, but I had good logic. I do not regret it. Overall, I think this is a good format. I think going forward, we can kind of project, when you look at like Kawhi and what he did, if Stripes had won, Kawhi was going to win MVP, obviously.
Yeah.
So, maybe there is something to looking at how you performed in the last few weeks. Have you been like the best player in the league basically for 2 months? Maybe that's a reason to go ahead and take him. I wasn't expecting Kawhi. If you've been like Kawhi Leonard tries in the All-Star game, I've been like, I'll bet no.
Yeah.
I'll give you 80 cents at no. But he showed up, but in the end, the kids won, which I was very happy for. It's what I wanted to have happen. I didn't just bet it. It was like my preferred outcome. I want to get the young guys, put the young guys over in wrestling terms. So I was pretty happy with the Sunday afternoon for. I have never liked that game. I haven't liked that game since I was a kid. I haven't enjoyed it since I was a kid. I enjoyed Sunday. I genuinely thought it was pretty good, Joe.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. I think the format was interesting because it almost seemed like both USA teams said to each other, like, we're not going to let World advance. Like, there's just no chance we're letting them win.
Right.
And it almost seemed like they both took it seriously in that regard. And then I think the old heads just kind of ran out of gas, to be honest. And I was on the Stripes money line in their first game against the Stars against the Stars. Cause I was like, they're going to be playing a team that had just played. They're the old guys. Like, they're going to be fresh. This is their first game. It's a good opportunity. But I was afraid, and for the reasons that you bet Stars, that they were maybe going to just be tired by the end of the tournament. So I really liked it. I thought it was fun. It was different anyway. And I guess, like, when you split up the teams kind of the way that they did, like, somebody has to play. Like, they have to play. So it does save you from some of the, like the deeper rosters where you just have two teams and half the roster can just sit. So I think that made it definitely a little bit more interesting where everybody was kind of in a position where, like, hey, like, if you're on the court, you have to try like a little bit. So I do think that made some difference there. So I like the game, and I tend to agree. It's been rough outside of random like all over parlays that you can bet because it's the all-star game, but this was definitely fun. I like the experience a lot.
Going back to Saturday afternoon, because they started at 3:00 in the afternoon, which
wild.
It has been really funny to me in that a lot of people were like, how could you do this on Saturday afternoon? It's Saturday night. It's all-star Saturday night. Why is it so early? And every like person over 30 is like, actually, I like this. This is awesome. I can go to bed. Like, everyone was pretty excited. Like, getting it over. I kind of liked it just like getting it over with and being done and kind of letting it settle, because instead of it taking up your whole night. Let's go backwards. I had Keyshawn Johnson in the All-Star dunk contest.
Oh, nice.
He gave that out on Action Network. That was also a pick from Brandon Kravitz on Buckets. He gave that one out as well. So we hit that one. That one, when I looked through all the tape, I was like, oh, Keshad's got the kind of dunks that you want to see. He's got the airtime. He's got the violence. He's not Jackson Hayes. That's a big win. He's not being Jackson Hayes. Carter Bryant. Hope the kid's okay. Jace Richardson, I had as my 2-star play. Was disappointed in his performance, but thought Keyshawn was definitely deserving of winning. No one's gonna like it because it's just they don't know these guys. They just don't know them.
Yeah,
and it's not exciting to root for guys doing dunks. It's a star. It's supposed to be stars doing dunks, and it's not. And I thought Keyshawn's dunks were great, but it's just like it's an all-star dunk that wasn't one of the worst ones we've seen. It's just we're not gonna remember it.
No, I think they just got to flip it. Like, it should not be the end of the night. Like, it's the worst event at this point, I think, out of all of them. I think it just needs to be earlier in the night because, like, I was on Jace and I was like, oh my God, he literally died on the court when he, got when he fell. And I was like, this is brutal. But, I don't know. It's a tough one. Like you said, if stars aren't going to compete in it, it makes it a hard draw. So I don't mind if they flip flopped it. I think, I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but I think the 3-point contest at this point is like the star-studded event of the night. It's the one that I think is the most competitive. The stars are not afraid to compete in it either. So I think that they should just flip flop some of these events, even if you don't want to make the dunk contest first, maybe put it second or something. But I really don't see any reason that it needs to be last anymore.
Hit on shooting stars too. I took Team Knicks after looking at all the analysis, not just because this is a Knicks podcast for Joe Dellera, but because it was funny to me. I did the analysis on it, and if you look at the board, they were all shots on the right side of the floor, and no one in this competition had an above league average shooting percentage from the right side of the floor, except for Jalen Brunson.
Yeah,
that was it. The only one.
Plus, like, Allen Houston was a cheat code. Like,
yeah, he's great.
Like, he's awesome. Like, he looks like he could get out there and still maybe score 15 points a game. But when I looked at it too, because I was on the Knicks, they were the only team that really had 3 pure shooters like on the team. Every other team you looked at and you're like, well, like, they have like a little bit of a weak link here or here, and it's literally a shooting competition. That's all it is. So to me, I thought the Knicks were definitely the best bet on the board.
I actually like this competition. I had fun with it. I would really like to see KD next year.
Oh yeah.
You know, it'd be actually great. Ooh, I may make this a piece of content. You know who it should be next year? Former teammates.
Oh.
You should do KD, Russ, and Harden, and have the
Oh, that's
Oklahoma
a good
City
one.
guys as a
Yeah,
team. You should have LeBron, Kyrie, and Love,
that would be fun.
and then you
That would
should
be a lot of
do.
fun.
LeBron would never do it. But yeah, you
No.
could do like all the former teammates. I think that would actually be really hilarious. That'd be really a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. That would actually be sick. You could do like Luca and Brunson and somebody else, like and just rub it in the Mavs face.
We're Mavs fans. So hit on Knicks plus 170 on that one. I thought Harper's would do better, but I overestimated the G League.
Yeah,
Ron
the
Harper
power of
Jr.
family.
The Ron Harper Jr. So
Yeah.
Allen Houston was insane. Corey Maggette, by the way, shout out to Corey Maggette. He was also very good.
He's really good.
And then 3-point. I'm not going to talk about Rising Stars. I refuse. But 3-point contest. That's the one I always want to cap the best. So even though I hit on Team World or hit on Team Stars and Dunk and this one, I'm just so mad that I missed on 3-point because I had Donovan Mitchell. Tyrese never got close. That's fine. It was Tyrese's first appearance. I ran some analysis after I'd done the show and after I'd written some stuff. I actually ran some last minute analysis, and the analysis spit out the very simple formula: take a 6'3" or under player who has already won the contest.
Yeah,
that's it.
So it's just Dame, like just keep betting on Dame
or Book.
Yeah,
Dame or Book. And honestly, I think Donovan wins if he just missed the fucking logo shots, and Colin Knippel, who did not actually have a good performance, hit one, and that got him past Donovan. I was so mad because I was like, if I get Donovan in the finals, I might be live here.
Yeah, the logo shots are great, but at the same time, I kind of hate them because they're not really like, they're just weighted too much. I think they should almost be used as, I think it would be fun if they use them as only tiebreakers.
Yes.
Like if you're tied with somebody, that's the tiebreaker. Granted, like as opposed to it just elevates your score no matter what. Yeah. Maybe that would be interesting. But like I was on Norman Powell and I hit his round one over under. So like that was great, but it killed me because I was like, oh, this is going to be second year. I think that first year he kind of had some jitters, didn't perform great. And then he ran out of time on his Moneyball rack. So like when he was heating up. So that was a little bit tougher, I think.
So I couldn't log it live because we don't have the ability to log that live in the app. I hammered Dame after his second rack in the first round. I was like, oh God, he's fine. Like I just had no idea I didn't know what to expect. I was like, he's coming off an Achilles.
And you know what's funny? Because I was on VSiN and I was talking about this, and the one guy, Scott, was basically saying, he was like, I kind of like Dame because the only thing he can do right now is shoot off the rack. Right. And I was like, oh, that's a fair point, and hadn't really thought about it in that way, but it was I think he wound up being right. So but it's Dame. Like you just had no idea what he was going to look like, what the speed was going to look like, how he was going to do time wise. But I guess it was also, he's not going to come off of an injury, while he's hurt to compete in this contest, thinking that he wasn't going to be awesome right off the rip.
Right. All right. So that's your recap of All-Star Weekend. I give it guys, it's hard to say. Historically, it would be like a C+. In recent terms, if we do like the last 15 years, it's like a B+.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Not like the most amazing. Pretty good. I mean, next year's going to be nuts with LeBron. It's going to be nuts.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be insane.
It's going to be ridiculous. Okay. But now All-Star is over, thank God, and we can actually get back to the business of basketball and the things that actually matter, like trying to figure out exactly how much to fine the Utah Jazz to get them to stop throwing games. But instead of talking about tanking, and we talked about some of the schedule stuff last week, let's just take a big picture look at this. And I want to start with the title because I do think it's like an interesting spot to kind of analyze where we're at. Currently, consensus on Oklahoma City is about plus 130. There's a plus 135 at Caesars. There's a plus 125 at Bet365. Nuggets are hanging in there in the second spot. I think it's interesting that it's Thunder and then Nuggets and then a drop to double digits. I think that's very interesting. That's surprising to me that it's like at DraftKings plus 130 Thunder, plus 450 Nuggets, and then we immediately jump to plus 450 with Spurs all the way. Like market is behind on Spurs. They have to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, it does seem a little bit odd because like the Spurs are ahead on like FanDuel. They're a little bit higher, like, higher in the odds. I don't know. I do think that San Antonio is really good, but I think that we are going to run into the thing with the Spurs that we talk about. Like I was talking about this with the Eastern Conference today too, and we can talk about it overall. But I do think there's something to be said about teams that are like in their first big playoff run with San Antonio. As good as I think they are, I think San Antonio and even like Detroit to a degree are going to be in this same boat, right? Where they've never really been tested like from a schematic perspective, where like when you get into the postseason, teams aren't just running their regular coverages against you. They're going to put in and do anything that they can think of to exploit a mismatch or a weakness that maybe they aren't really showing during the regular season. So maybe that's part of why, where if you look at it and you say, okay, Oklahoma City, Denver, and then honestly like Boston and the Knicks are kind of like up there too. But Boston and Knicks are both a little bit different than they've been in years past too. So whereas Oklahoma City, Denver, generally the same teams that you trust in the postseason, maybe that's why we have this kind of like gap between the two or between the three.
I mean, it's got to be handle based, right? It's got to be the Nuggets took on a lot of handle probably before the season when they added Cam Johnson.
Yeah.
Kind of getting more depth, Jonas Valanciunas, and it being like, okay. And then they started off awesome. I'll check. I might look into that this week about whether or not they've added significant handle.
Yeah.
Chris Miller live on youtube.com/the Action Network says, how much do you guys value the 40-20 rule? I value it a lot. So those that don't know, since 1980, when the NBA's three-point line was put into effect, 91% of all NBA champions have won 40 games before 20 losses. There are only 4 teams in that span who have won the title who have not done that. If you are curious who is eligible and ineligible for that, we are pretty tight now. OKC locked it. Detroit locked it. San Antonio's going to do it. They get to go 2 and 4. 2 and 3.
Yeah, they'll do it.
If they need 2 more wins to hit 40. The Knicks on the last night of their last game, they lost. That was 20 losses for them. They did not clear it. The Cavs did not. Every other East team is dead, except for the Boston Celtics, who are 35 and 19. They have to win 5 in a row, or they don't clear 40-20.
And it's West, and it has to be 40 before 20.
Yes.
Not like, because I remember the Knicks did it, I think, last year, and it was like they lost their 20th game and then they won their 40th like the day after.
Yeah. And it doesn't, and I understand it's like, well, what's the real difference there? I will tell you the drop off is massive. It goes from like 90% to like 76%.
Yeah.
It's nuts. So Nuggets have lost 20. That was the what's the game? Cavaliers, I think. And the Rockets are at 20. The Spurs are live. The only teams live are Thunder, who's locked it. Spurs are live. Celtics are live. Pistons have locked it. We're down to 4 teams. So the odds are that one of those teams are going to win the title. Now, the other thing that I track on Twitter is I track that 27 out of the last 30 NBA champions have had an SRS of 4.0 or higher. And what that is it's point differential versus strength of schedule. Okay. The outlier here is the 2023 Nuggets, who are below that and won. And a lot of people have noted, like, as much as like, I think that team was great. Like, they did not beat a 50-win team that season. They just didn't do it. They didn't have to face anybody. So they faced a Lakers team that was just kind of surprisingly there out of the play-in tournament. And then they faced the Heat, who had no business being there in the finals. And then the last thing is you gotta be a top 3 seed. There are only 2 instances in NBA history in the entire history of the league only 2 teams have won the NBA championship with more than a 3 seed. The 1969 Boston Celtics
Doesn't count. Like
and the 1995 Houston Rockets. Another one that you can kind of apply there is no team that has failed that is not pursuing a repeat championship has done it as more than a 3 seed. Because both those, like Celtics won in 68 and Rockets won in 94.
Yeah.
So that narrows your field here for the title considerably. Like we're down to just OKC, San Antonio, Detroit, technically Boston. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, our look at it has been, again, this Oklahoma City team is incredible, right? Like they've been fantastic, but it does get interesting because the Western Conference is so. I think it's weird because I was seeing a tweet and it was about how everybody says that the Western Conference is so good, but I think it was that the Western Conference has a lot more bad teams, I think, than the Eastern Conference right now. Like the East has a couple bad, like a bunch of bad teams where you'd say like they're actually bad, but by record wise, they're not terrible, or they're kind of trying because they're trying to go for the play-in tournament or whatever. So I do think maybe there's something to that, but Oklahoma City at the end of the day, like they've been insane. Everybody's hurt for them, which maybe is a problem coming up for later in the season. But for now, they're still kind of rolling through everybody, and that's despite a lot of those injuries. And I know Detroit, I guess, has one fewer loss than they do at this point.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
I know it's tough, right? Like
yeah.
to really be like, do I think Detroit is better than OKC? And it's like, no, but that's also not the question, right?
No.
And so one of the things I think that's interesting about this is, so I ran projections based off of the All-Star numbers through my model, and then I'd spits out of Monte Carlo, and here's what I've got. OKC's consensus price is about 130. I make them about plus 159. So there's about 29 cents of negative value on that bet.
Yeah.
So there's got to be value elsewhere, right? And some of this is distributed to teams like I have Charlotte 45-1 versus 200-1.
Yeah.
Yay, but I'm not going to bet that, right?
Negligible.
But the one that is most interesting is actually the Detroit Pistons, who I have at about a 21% chance to win the NBA title. And I have them marked at 388. I think their value in the market should be plus 380. They are 15-1. I'm going to bet Detroit here. It's not going to be like a big addition. This is not going to be like a substantive one. If you're asking, we're in the same spot we've been in, which is if you just ask who is most likely to win the NBA title, it's OKC. We all know that. It's OKC. I am stuck on, though, Joe, no repeat champion since 2018. And there's all these like little blips with OKC, and they're not as healthy as last year, and they haven't responded to adversity, and the Wolves and Spurs have snuck up and beaten them. And like, we don't know what condition Jalen Williams is going to be in. There are little signs that they're not quite as good as last year. Like, there's a lot of little things you can kind of talk yourself into. It's a question of whether you think that that's a substantive reason to bet or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, right, when we look at this, I do think that the culture or the landscape of the league is a little bit different, given like some of the cap constraints. And, I think that there's been a little bit more of like an evening across the board in terms of the level of competitiveness with the way the CBA has kind of come in with certain things in terms of the cap. And, we are seeing some turnover in these teams that are good or bad over the past couple of seasons. So I do think that like it's been a little bit different in terms of continuity, and we haven't really seen a true like powerhouse lately. And I think in part though, that may be because there hasn't really been a player that you look at and you go, well, they're winning these games on their own, like over and over and over. Because I mean, even if you look at the league lately, right? Like it's Jokic. Jokic is the best player in the league, best player in the world. And even then, it hasn't been on the same level as like when LeBron was on his run or when Jordan was on his run. And it's just that team's going to the finals like that. It's been different lately. Like the league is not as almost like front loaded on those particular teams that, like where you can say this one team for sure is going all the way. They're going to make it out of the conference. So I think that because of that, we're seeing teams on both sides in both conferences where you go, well, this favorite doesn't really feel as much of a favorite. And then now you also have all these teams where players are resting or players are being load managed. And I do wonder if maybe that cuts into the 40-20 a little bit, because you say, well, these teams aren't really trying in the regular season, or they're trying to manage different injuries or whatever. But at the same time, I think it cuts into the, well, if your team needs to be load managed in that way, where you're so concerned about injury, the odds that they pop up with an injury during the postseason is probably a lot higher than these other teams that don't need to rest their guys because they're either younger, healthier, or whatever. So it's a long way of saying that I think that there's a little bit more parity in the league right now. So I do have some concerns, like you said, about Oklahoma City being able to win consecutive titles. But that being said, I do think that they're still the best team and they have the most depth as long as everybody's healthy.
Then there's Boston.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Technically alive. Will probably not hit 40-20. They've added another national television game, and there's been a lot of speculation about that being Jason Tatum's potential return. He started practicing with the G League affiliate this week. A lot of buzz. The word has basically been put out. Do not guarantee anything, but yeah, it's looking good. That's my read on it. That's not me reporting. Is that like my read off of the Boston people that I pay attention to are talking as if, hey, he's not for sure coming back, but boy, it sure looks like it. The timing of this is really interesting, particularly given that we now have access to the prediction markets like Kalshi.
Yeah.
Right. Currently, Boston to win the title, yes, is 7 cents. When he returns, what number does that go to?
It's interesting because I think that those prediction markets are generally you generally have, I think, sharper people using them because of the ability to bet both sides, betting yeses and no, buying and selling positions, right? So but at the same time, there are people that are going to go and bet in a reactionary form, or they're going to buy in a reactionary form, saying, okay, he's coming back. Well, then this Boston team is the best team in the East. And I think that's something that could definitely happen. So, looking at their betting odds, right? Like their American odds, they're 13-1 right now. It wouldn't shock me to see them move to maybe 10-1, where they're the favorites coming out of the East, just based on the number, especially if they go off and rip off a couple more wins coming out of the break. Their schedule's not particularly tough heading into March either.
So what's interesting about this is low price now at 13-1. I have them, my numbers have them at about 6-1. So I have value on them. I've already put in a position on them, but I especially like their Eastern Conference odds because that one's even, I think, a little bit higher.
Because the conference doesn't apply for your, like, the rules that you have, like the 40-20 stuff like that. And I think that's part of why you then see in the finals, like if you have a team that fits that criteria, and then there's another team that kind of like didn't fit and makes their way to the finals, you usually have a little bit of a mismatch then at that point, because it's easier to get through a conference, obviously, than it is to win the title.
Right. So I've got a little bit more value on I think on the East. What's interesting with Boston is here's kind of what I would want to do with the prediction markets in particular. And you're right that these are a little bit sharper. Take a position now, sell it. Like, you have to be price sensitive because it's going to spike. Like, you have to be watching it the day that he gets announced. If you're just like, well, I'm going to set it and forget it. No, do not do that. Right. Take it at 7 cents. Sell it after the spike when he comes back. Take that and then reinvest it about a week later when they struggle when he's back. They are going to struggle when he comes back.
Yeah.
You can pretty much, this is a general rule. A great example of this is the Denver Nuggets, who are 2-4 since Nikola Jokic, the best player on the planet, returned. They were 10-6 in the month of January without him. in a condensed, back-to-back heavy, low rest, 4 starters out nightmare month. They went 10-6. He comes back, they're 2-4.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to play around him, and they're hurt, and guys are in and out, and they don't have Spencer Jones. But mostly it's like Joker's not playing real well right now because he's trying to get back in shape and he's still not comfortable with the knee. And so like now is a great opportunity to buy low on a Denver Nuggets team. Now I don't find a lot of edge on them, so I don't want to bet them right now. But this is a buy low spot for them. The price is only going to get steeper because Joker's going to get right, and their March schedule for Denver is all home. They have 27 games or 26 games remaining, and it's 15 home, 11 away. And it's all like they get more rest in between games. They have a few back-to-backs, but they've got lots of this rest in between that makes it a lot easier for them. They should be really dynamite in March. But right now it's kind of a buy low spot. And the same thing is going to happen with Tatum, where it's like Tatum's going to come back and the Celtics are going to be like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
Is Jaylen Brown initiating? Because you can't just go back and run it like you were last year. You don't have the shooters. You don't have those guys. You don't have Drew Holiday. You don't have Kristaps Porzingis. Like you're playing a little bit differently now. You have more bigs. Like they don't take as many threes as they did last year. So they have to like readjust everything. So then I think you buy low on Boston after they struggle, and it's like, oh, well, Tatum came back, but he doesn't look great, and they're not as good. That's a buy low spot for them, I think.
Yeah, because at the same time, like I think they do need Tatum. Like they need a big that can do more than like what they have, right? Like you need a defensive big that also isn't like a total liability from a scoring perspective or vice versa. Like Keita and Vooch are like inverse versions of each other, so it makes it a little bit tougher. So I think it adds obviously a ton of optionality. I think the biggest question and the biggest concern for Boston is always going to be the locker room chemistry that they're going to have there, because I think Jaylen Brown in particular, he's been pretty vocal about how good the team is doing with him at the helm. And you have to wonder how that is going to go. Because I just don't know if that's going to go well. Especially, I always think like Drew Holiday is definitely, I think, a leader, especially in some of these locker rooms, whether he's super vocal or not. He's not there anymore. He's not there to kind of police the situation and being like, hey, like it doesn't matter who is doing better or worse. You know, this is a good spot for you guys. So Boston is definitely a team that I'm always going to be interested in, but at the same time, I'm not convinced. I think their offense is better this year because they're not so 3 reliant. But at the same time, this is a team that, you know, like they were going to just lose the Knicks, and I don't think they're as good as they were last year. I think they're performing well, but I think a lot of that has to do with Missoula and the coaching of it rather than what the on-court talent is per se.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I do kind of trust them more in the playoff environment, but it's just going to be really interesting, I think, to see a lot of this too. We talk about this. I'm getting suckered back into betting these conference odds when we talk about all the time. Like if Jim was here, he'd be lecturing me because he'd be like, "How many times do we say you got to wait for the matchups? You got to wait for the matchups because you're not getting the extra edge on the finals." Which it's not necessarily the finals are a coin flip. It's just like, look, if you get to the finals, you're at a huge number, and you only got to win one more series. And like maybe like if it's Boston, maybe OKC is just like every possible injury happens, and then it's like, oh yeah, Boston just won. And who cares about 40-20 or any of these other rules? When I talk about all these rules, by the way, it's like, they're not rules, they're guidelines. There's just like, this is what has happened in history. And I do subscribe to them because if you tell me that 91% of the champions over 46 years have all had the same profile, I'm going to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I think those trends, you know, it's like history repeats itself type of deal. And it's not so much that you have to follow these trends or, you know, what these rules are, but I think it does give a reason to maybe not bet something that you're like, well, like what's wrong? Like if you looked at it and you said, well, like what's wrong with the Raptors or like what's wrong with the Sixers or, you know, like one of those teams or even like the Cavs, like one of these teams is a little bit lower in the rank in the standings. And you go, well, nothing is wrong with them, but if they even make it to the finals, it would be surprising. So, I think it becomes harder because then even if they get there, you have this super long number, but you're not going to really be able to hedge it out because they're probably going to be dogs and significant dogs in the finals. And then you're sitting on like a dead ticket because like you're not going to want to go bet minus 300 on Oklahoma City in the finals to kind of extract any type of value out of your ticket at that point. If you're just kind of taking a flyer on the team saying, well, maybe they can make the finals.
Right. Yeah. And based off of like schedule adjusted projections, somebody's asking about the Sixers. I had them as the 8. They can make some noise. I don't think there's a way. I think if you're looking for a way to bet the Sixers, it needs to be round by round.
Yeah.
Is just wait and be like, is Embiid healthy? Yes. Are they playing well? Did they round into form? What's PG looking like after the suspension? Like,
I think it should tell you a lot too that they specifically decided to duck the tax. Like Embiid was vocal saying, I want more talent on this team going into the playoffs, and they traded Jared McCain to the Thunder.
Yeah.
Like it's like that should tell you everything about where the ownership thinks of this team, basically.
One thing I will note, this is a very interesting dynamic. So here's what I've got projected right now. And again, a lot can change. Right now, I've got it Thunder, Spurs, Wolves in the 3rd spot, Nuggets, Rockets, Suns. The Lakers fall to the 7, the Warriors at the 8. So I've got the Suns winning the division right now.
Yeah.
What's also notable about that is if you're just like, look, San Antonio has never been in a playoff series with Victor Wembanyama, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper. They have no experience winning a playoff series. De'Aaron Fox has not won a playoff series. He lost Game 7 to the Warriors. They have no experience making a run. None. Okay. So who's in the bracket based off of what I've got projected? The Minnesota Timberwolves in the 3 versus like the Wolves get the Suns in a 3-6.
Yeah.
Suns will be a pain, but that's very winnable for Minnesota. San Antonio gets the Lakers, a little bit more dangerous. Like Luka Doncic just goes off. It'd be a great series, Luka versus.
Oh, it'd be awesome. Yeah.
And if there's a team I think that matches up well with San Antonio, it's Minnesota. It's Minnesota just being like, oh, you have Victor Wembanyama? Yeah, we have Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
Oh, you have all these fast guards. We have Jaden McDaniels. Like, we have more 3-point shooting. We have more offense, and our highest gear defensively is as good as you.
Yeah.
So Minnesota, I think, has like a lot of value again to make a Western Conference Finals appearance. I think if these projections are right, that's a really good spot. But also, like, these things are really temperamental, and like Minnesota by their very nature is always like, we should win this game. We're not going to, but we should.
They do a lot of that.
Yeah, they just have no floor. They have no floor.
No.
And I think today, like, the All-Star game is a great representation of Ant. What happens when he tries? All-Star MVP.
Yeah, like, oh, it's like, oh, he's awesome.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Yeah, he's incredible.
I think you're right. Like in terms of the bracket, especially in the West. Honestly, I think the East we're gonna get better clarity. I think sooner rather than later. At least at the top, I would say. But the West is just like you lose a couple games and you go from the 3 seed all the way to like the 7 or the 8. Like you're in the play-in. Yeah. So the West is wildly different. And again, it goes to the whole point of inexperience in the playoffs. Like I'm curious to start handicapping it from a little bit of like a ball knowledge perspective, saying this is how I would push this button on this team. And, how can that be exploited from some of these player prop bets in the, the series bets or anything like that. So definitely curious. I mean, we're getting to that point where we're going to have to start looking at that too.
As a Knicks fan, if I told you have to go through 2, but not 3, you have to go through Detroit, Boston, or Cleveland, 2, not 3. Which are the 2 that you take, and which one do you not want to go through?
I think you definitely want Cleveland.
Okay, you want Cleveland.
And then I think it's kind of weird because like you've beaten all of these teams at some point, but I think that Boston's just so well coached. Like I don't feel I'm not afraid of what Detroit would do, like from a coaching perspective, I guess, in like a playoff series. I don't know about you.
You just feel like the Cavs aren't tough enough to hang with New York.
I think the Cavs still have the same weaknesses that they had before. Like they still have pretty like set lineups, right? So I think Harden over Garland is good overall for Cleveland, but you're still running like a 2 guard and a 2 big lineup. Like you have to run those guys out there. And I think that with Jared Allen there, like I think that if you're New York, you're fine running. If you want to run double big, you have Cat and Mitchell Robinson. Like that's a fine matchup. And if you don't, and you want to run Cat at the 5, then that might force Jared Allen off the court a little bit. And then it's like, well, Mobley at the 5, he's not really shown that he can do that for an extended period of time. So
plus 7,000 offensive rebounds.
Yeah, plus he's hurt. So
yeah.
I think that you definitely would want Cleveland. Detroit, it might from like a coaching perspective, I think you might want them, but Boston you just beat. So, and I think this team is worse, this version of Boston.
I think what's interesting is like the player I think you want to face least is Donovan.
Yeah.
The coach you want to face most is Atkinson. Knicks, Pistons are super
so tough. They're tough.
So physical.
Yeah.
Like that's just going to be a war, and Brunson's going to be a wreck if he gets out of it. Like he's just going to be so beat up, and there's going to be fights.
It's the main thing it's honestly the biggest thing is going to be how is it officiated? Because if there's like if there's a good whistle, then and like players can't get hurt, it cuts both ways because Cat's going to foul out of every fucking game. Yeah. But Brunson's going to go to the free throw line like 50 times, so it'll be fun. Yeah. Like it'll kind of even out. But that's Detroit would be a war, I think, is the difference. And like you don't really want to get into that if you don't have to.
I think that's what's kind of interesting is like, man, you might beat Detroit, but you're not surviving after it.
You're gonna die. Yeah. You're gonna die. That's a team that you have to beat fast. And I don't really think that you can beat Detroit fast.
They're too good to beat fast. Yeah.
Okay.
One last thing before we get out of here, I want to talk about the Southeast Division because this continues to be like, as a betting show, this is, I think, one of the most interesting ones.
It's the play-in tournament.
It is the play-in tournament. It's literally the play-in tournament. So we gave out I was not on the show, but I have all these positions too about the Hornets. I came around very quickly on Charlotte once they put in like 10 games together with the full complement. I was like, all right, they're really good. And now I actually have them like fully healthy. My numbers are preposterous for this team. Like my no injuries projection for the Charlotte Hornets is 45 wins in the 7 seed and winning the division. Or no, they would actually be right behind Miami by that win. So like there's still probably some meat on the bone because Charlotte's just not going to take they're not going to take a lot of money in a lot of these markets. So at DK, I'm looking, Magic are plus 100. They continue to be faith in them. Heat are plus 240. Hornets are plus 400. Hawks are 1,001. Hawks are done. Like they're pivoting to the future, which is fine. But Charlotte is at 29 losses. Magic are at 25. It's 4. That is just inside of kind of what I think is doable at this win rate. Like if you're 4 back at the top, you're not catching. You're not catching like a 76% win team the rest of the way. They're not going to lose enough for you to catch them. You have to do that and win tiebreaker. It's too hard. But for a 28 and 25 team in Orlando, I definitely think that Charlotte can catch them. Miami's the one I don't know about, man.
Yeah, it's tough too because they only play each team. They play Miami twice, and they play Orlando only once. So I think that makes it a little bit tougher. Like normally, like when we bet Denver the other day, we were like, well, they still have 3 or 4 more games left against Oklahoma City. So like you have the ability directly to make that up. Here, I think it's definitely a little bit harder because you just don't have those head-to-head games anymore.
I have a hard time with teams like Charlotte and the Clippers where it's, hey, you're awesome, but okay, are you going to do this for another 2 months?
Yeah.
Like that's always my question is, hey, you've played great basketball for 2 months. Are you going to play that exact same level for 2 months, or is this the best that you're going to play? Like I worry a lot about peaking too early. It's hard because it's like, I can't tell you should lose, but you got to pretty much stay at like an even pace in order for me to believe in you. It's like, you're not overperforming expectations. You're playing right at, but the thing with Charlotte is like, really, if you look at it fully healthy, this is who they are.
Yeah.
And their formula is so different. It's not hot shooting. It's like defense and rebounding.
Yeah. And great 3-point shooting too
Yeah.
is the thing. So I will say, if you want to buy Charlotte, it might be after the break starts because they come out with a back-to-back against Houston and Cleveland Thursday, Friday. And then after that, their schedule is pretty soft. You've got after that, it's Wizards, Bulls, Pacers, Blazers, Mavericks, and then you get the Celtics. So then it gets tough. But there's like a 5-game stretch of games where they could really win all 5 of those. Those first 2 games, obviously, if they beat the Rockets or the Cavs, this number might start going the other way where you're like, well, I wish I bet it before. But I also think you could just bet like the money line in one of those games and potentially do better without having the same type of exposure. So those first 2 games out of the break, I think, are very tough for Charlotte. So I might wait if you really wanted to add a Charlotte position, like if you were late on betting in the ones when we were talking about it here, in some of our shows.
Yeah, I just don't buy Orlando. I don't
either. I mean, Paolo, I'm curious to see what's going to happen because we shit on Paolo all the time from like an efficiency perspective, right? But I mean, he leads the team in usage, and his points per shot attempt is like, per 100. He's basically scoring on 100 shot attempts. He's averaging 111.6 points, which is in the 44th percentile. That's lower than every other like primary rotation player for this team. So it makes it very hard, I think, and it's going to be a little bit of a gear shifting for Orlando. I think in order for them to be better, like you need less on ball Paolo. Like there are circumstances where you need him because he's just is super physical, can beat people one-on-one situations, can definitely exploit mismatches, and he's still 23. So it's not like he's older and there's no more growth left in his career. But I think right now you need like a different version of him, and you probably need more Franz, Suggs, Bane, and honestly even Anthony Black like on ball, and using Paolo as more of like a finisher in certain situations as opposed to having him like run the offense. Like I don't love that for this Orlando team. And I don't know if they're going to have enough time to really gel because of all the injuries they've had on and off for all of their primary rotation players, except for Anthony Black, really. You're muted.
Cash the minus 1,000. I took 1 week off. 1 week, I didn't do it. I was looking at dunks and threes, which actually projects out things like their EPM, their team EPM, and their offensive rating and their defensive rating. And it's really kind of interesting because what it projects, they had an apex on December 1st at plus 4.5. They cratered on January 7th at -1. They're currently entering the break at plus 2.2. They're supposed to basically peak with their schedule March 3rd at a plus 3.4 and then slowly get worse the rest of the year based off of their schedule. So I kind of want to try this, I might do this as like an experiment is, all right, let's wait. Let's take the no position on them to win the division at Kalshi after the March 3rd game.
Yeah.
And see if we can get some value the rest of the way if this projection holds out right. So that I think is like an interesting question of how this is going to go. That March 3rd game is versus the Wizards. So they face Detroit on March 1st. So it's like Rockets, Pistons, Wizards, and then Mavericks on the 5th. And if we can maybe get a good price after the Wizards game, then we can sell them after that.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy because like their schedule before then is a little rough. The problem is like you really need everybody else to you're kind of trying to time it with the other team schedules too. Cause like I think that Charlotte is going to be in a good position like leading into that. So maybe it needs to be like, I don't know, like it's tough. You're kind of like trying to thread the needle, but if the Wizards game is already priced in, then maybe you can sell before the Wizards game in case you get like a lucky loss or something there.
I personally like taking positions on. That's why I like the prediction markets is I like being able to say, look, I don't know who's going to win, but it's not this team.
Yeah.
Like, especially from a division standpoint, when it's tight like this, I like that being like, look, might be Miami, might be Charlotte. It's not going to be Orlando.
It's just not them. Like,
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe they'll play great, and I'll check it out between now and March 3rd. We got 2 weeks, but great conversation. Enjoyed that with Joe Dellera. You can catch him at Joe Dellera and on the Cash That podcast. My thanks to David Payne, our producer, hanging out with us tonight. We'll be back on Wednesday night live at youtube.com/The Action Network, getting you set for a great slate of games on Thursday and into the back third of the NBA schedule as we get ready for the playoffs in 2 months. Glad to have you guys with us. We'll see you guys again next time. Till then, let's get buckets.